He was 16 years old. His first paycheck was $3.57 for an entire week of work as a bookkeeping assistant in Cleveland, Ohio. He took that money home, opened a small notebook, and wrote it down, every cent. He called the notebook Ledger A. He tracked every dollar in and every dollar out for the next 81 years without a single interruption, through the founding of Standard Oil, through becoming the world's first billionaire, through the antitrust case that broke his company apart, through retirement, through his final dime handed to a stranger on the street at age 97. The ledger never closed. That 16-year-old with the $3 paycheck died worth somewhere between $400 billion and $900 billion in today's money. Richer than Elon Musk, richer than Jeff Bezos, richer than Bill Gates, richer than all three of them added together. The wealthiest human being in the recorded modern history of the United States. And he got there not by spending differently than you, but by refusing to spend at all on 4 specific things that most people treat as simply the cost of living well. Watch until the end, because the 4th refusal is the one nobody talks about, and it is the one that made the other 3 possible. There is a metaphor that explains how Rockefeller's mind worked. Think of income as water. Most people run their money through a pipe. It flows in one end and out the other, and the pipe never fills. They get raises and build wider pipes. They still wake up empty. Rockefeller did not run a pipe. He built a reservoir. Every dollar he did not spend became part of the reservoir. Every dollar in the reservoir earned more dollars. The reservoir compounded while he slept. The pipe people worked their entire careers and ended up exactly where they started. The only difference between them and him was what he refused to let out. Here is the first refusal, and it is the one that will make you uncomfortable if you have ever received a raise. Rockefeller's ratio of personal spending to income did not move when his income moved. This is almost impossible to actually do, not because it requires deprivation. He had staff, he ate, he traveled, he lived, but because the instinct to upgrade is so deeply wired that most people experience it as natural rather than optional. You get the raise, you move to the better apartment, you buy the car you have been putting off, you eat at the restaurant that used to feel too expensive. None of these feel like decisions. They feel like the logical next step. And that is exactly what makes them so financially lethal. They do not feel like choices at all. Take someone like Daniel, 31, a project manager in Denver, earning $95,000 a year. 3 years ago, he earned $67,000. His savings account has grown by approximately $4,200. His apartment is nicer. His car payment is $690 a month. His dining spend, subscriptions, and discretionary purchases expanded in near-perfect lockstep with his salary increase. He does not feel reckless. He feels like he has arrived. He is running a pipe that is wider than it used to be and still completely empty. The $28,000 annual difference between what Daniel earns now and what he earned 3 years ago, invested at 8% returns over 30 years, becomes approximately $3.4 million. That is the price of the upgrade. Every year he waits, the clock resets. The second refusal is the one Rockefeller is most famous for, and the one modern culture has made the most difficult to replicate. He never borrowed money to consume. His hostility to consumption debt was not philosophical, it was mathematical. When you borrow to consume, to buy something you will use up, wear out, or experience once, you pay for the thing twice. You pay the price, and then you pay the interest, which is the bank's charge for letting you pretend you could already afford it. Standard Oil was built almost entirely on retained earnings reinvested internally. When Rockefeller borrowed, it was surgical, specific capital tied to a specific asset generating returns that clearly exceeded the borrowing cost. He never confused access to credit with a reason to use it. Sit with what that actually means in 2026. The average American household carries $10,479 in credit card debt. As of the first quarter of 2025, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The average interest rate on that balance is 21.6%. Someone carrying that debt on minimum payments will spend approximately $18,000 in interest before the principal is retired. They paid $28,000 for $10,000 of spending. Rockefeller would not have bothered with the arithmetic. He would have known intuitively that borrowing to consume is the single most reliable mechanism for making yourself permanently poorer than you otherwise would be. And he never once did it. The third refusal is where his story gets genuinely strange. A man worth the equivalent of $900 billion gave away dimes. Literally, he carried dimes in his pocket and handed them to strangers, caddies, hotel workers, doormen, anyone who helped him with something small. Not dollars, dimes. He wore practical clothes. He drove modest cars for most of his life. He ate bread and crackers and milk for the majority of his meals, not from deprivation, but because he had permanently disconnected the signal of wealth from the substance of it. He understood at a level most people never reach that the gap between what a status purchase costs and what it returns to you in actual financial substance is always negative. You pay the full price for the object, you receive only the signal. The signal belongs to other people. They walk away with the impression. You walk away with the bill. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey, the average American spends approximately $1,830 annually on clothing and personal appearance alone. That number does not include the car financed for the brand rather than the function, or the restaurant that required a reservation to justify the $180 tab. The pure appearance spend, invested at 8% over 35 years, becomes approximately $354,000. That is the cost of your audience. That is the number the people whose opinions you are purchasing never have to think about. The fourth refusal is the one the personal finance world has almost entirely missed, and it is the one that makes everything else in Rockefeller's story make sense. He never spent money or time on leisure that left no residue. He played golf, but he tracked every score obsessively and played for small competitive stakes that kept it focused. He read constantly, not novels for escape, but trade literature, biographies, industry analysis. He had long dinners with people whose thinking sharpened his own. He gave to his church for reasons that were as financial as they were spiritual. He believed, and the evidence supports this, that disciplined giving built the habit of prioritization directly into his financial nervous system in a way no other practice could. His leisure compounded. It fed the reservoir rather than draining it. And the compounding of that discipline, layered on top of the compounding of the money itself, is what produced 97 years of accumulation instead of the 60 that finished most of his contemporaries. Here is what passive consumption actually costs. According to a 2024 survey by C+R Research, the average American spends $219 a month on subscription services, streaming, apps, memberships, and underestimates that number by 47%. That is $2,628 annually on entertainment that in Rockefeller's framework leaves no residue. No knowledge, no relationship, no physical improvement. Compounded at 8% over 30 years, that number becomes approximately $322,000. Not the cost of one bad decision, the cost of the default. Here is what you can do in the next 12 minutes. Pull up your last 90 days of bank and card statements. Find your 4 largest discretionary categories. For each one, ask the question from Ledger A, not what does this give me, but what does this stop becoming? Run the 30-year number at 8%. Write it next to the spending. Look at both numbers for 60 seconds without rationalizing either one. Rockefeller opened that ledger at 16 with $3.57. The question he asked about every dollar never changed. The reservoir just kept growing. By 97, it was the largest one anyone had ever seen. If this helped you get one step closer to financial freedom, hit that subscribe button. Let's build wealth together.